Welcome to the Body Shop Physical Therapy. I'm Dr. Catherine Price, and in this video I'm going to go over trigger point release of the abdominal muscles. So the abdominal muscles on the front wall, we've gone over trigger point release of the rectus abdominis, which is going to be the turtle shell that goes straight down the front. We're going to talk about the obliques and the transverse abdominals. So the obliques, you've got your external obliques and your internal obliques. Your external obliques are going to go from the lower 6 ribs and attach down into the pubic bone and the iliac crest, which is the top of the hip bone. And it's going to have a projection that goes from the ribs and angles downward like this. So that's going to be the projection of the external oblique muscle. That's going to be more superficial. So it's going to overlie and be on the top. Underneath that, I'm going to have my internal obliques, and they're going to run in the opposite direction. So they're going to project their finger-like projections up towards those lower 6 ribs, and it's going to also attach to the iliac crest as well and into the fascia of the hip flexor, which is going to be on the inside of the ilium. So that's going to be the iliacus, the hip flexor, and there's fascia there. So it's going to be a little bit deeper, and then deeper to that, we refer to that as the deep abdominal muscles, and that's going to be the transversus abdominis, and that is going to be the corset. So that goes from the lower lumbar spine, there's fascia in the back, and it's going to wrap around continuing to that fascia, but it's going to draw the navel to the spine, and it's going to flatten the abdominals. So what causes trigger points in the abdominal muscles? It can be from poor posture, so you can be shortening everything. It can be from paradoxical breathing, where you are inhaling and your rib cage is going to go in opposite directions that it would naturally go. You could have visceral organ problems that can result in trigger points in this area. So if you do have pain in these areas, you want to have a consult with your healthcare provider, and do make sure that there isn't something going on with your organs. I rarely, if ever, treat the trigger points on the obliques, external or internal, and those are going to be areas though that I may be overlooking a lot. So if you have trigger points in the abdominal oblique muscles or the deep transverse abdominals, you're going to find those in that under part of your rib cage. So just underneath on the sides of that rectus abdominal, that's where you're going to have some tenderness. Also, you can have it just above your groin on that lower part. That's where you can have some tenderness. And so your deep abdominal muscles, the transverse abdominals, I'll go down to the front side of my hips, go inward, draw my navel into my spine in order to feel the contractions there. Now, I always get confused about when the external and internal abdominals contract. So when you are rotating, so I'm going to take my shoulder to my opposite hip. When I'm going in that direction, I'm contracting my external obliques on the side that I am going to go opposite. So on my right obliques, they're going to contract to take the shoulder to the opposite hip. So that's going to be my external oblique. But then my internal oblique are going to help pull me in that same direction. So down lower, where I can feel the muscle contract as I am rotating towards that side, that's going to be my internal obliques. So I've got my external obliques that's going to be superficial underneath. I've got my internal obliques going in the opposite direction. And then I've got my transverse abdominal, where I'm drawing my navel into my spine and I am engaging my corset. And that can be super helpful to protecting your low back. So to release the trigger points along those areas, I use my blunted shell, and I'll lie on my back. And to address the external obliques, so if I'm going to go this direction and I find tenderness along there, I'm going to then go down towards my hip in a diagonal direction and investigate for any tenderness in there. And then I'll hold there for 20 to 30 seconds to release the trigger point. And just relaxing. Now, if I'm searching for more of my internal obliques or my transverse abdominal, I'll come just above my groin area in that lower abdominals. And this time I'm going to go, instead of going this direction, I'm going to go down towards my pubic bone and investigate for any tenderness along there. And I will use my fingertips or my blunted shell. And again, if I find any tenderness, I'll hold for 20 to 30 seconds and let that subside. And if you are having pain in your abdominal region, this can be from those muscles. So you can develop trigger points that give you that epigastric or the abdominal pain. Then to stretch the abdominal muscle, I'm going to go onto my stomach and I'm going to extend my trunk. I'm going to look up and I'm just going to feel a stretch happening through that area. I can also stand, and I'll show you this in kneeling, and rotate my body and stretch my obliques that way. So I can do a rotation to stretch the obliques, or I can extend and stretch the abdominals that way. Then to engage the abdominals, what we want to do is we want to take our navel and we want to draw it down towards our spine. We don't want to draw the navel in by sucking in. We want to use the abdominals and engage, tighten, 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 so that you're going to flatten your back down into the floor. That's going to pull that transversus abdominis toward the center line, that linea alba, and that is going to contract those deep abdominal muscles. And then I can roll my shoulder blades up. That's going to engage as the deep abdominals, as long as I'm keeping my low back down and I'm continuing to draw low. And then if I start to rotate, I can then engage the obliques and come back to center, and then go into the opposite direction and come back to center. If I bring my arms to my side, I can then side bend to one ankle, side bend to the other, and that's where they're going to also engage those deep abdominal muscles as well as my obliques. So that's how I can strengthen those. And those are helpful to strengthen to help with back pain and stabilizing the back, protecting your back. And again, if you're getting any pain in the upper epigastric region or just below those ribs or in your groin area, sometimes that can come from the abdominal muscles, poor posture, breathing paradoxically, or even having problems in the organs, you can develop trigger points in those muscles. So I hope this is of help, and have a blessed day. Thank you.